Well, good evening. As you can see, today's lesson is lesson 7.6, and we're going to be talking about spreadsheets. Now, generally speaking, we've been looking at the data that we have been doing this chapter, and we've been mostly drawing different kinds of graphs. So we saw line plots, which is really, it's called a line plot, but it's really a graph. It's like a bar graph. In fact, it's a lot like a histogram. We saw histograms and bar graphs. Okay. Last night we saw circle graphs. We've seen broken line graphs. So we've seen a lot of different kinds of graphing. Now we have done some other kind of organizing of data. We did talk about the mean, median, and mode, and we also did frequency tables. Well, spreadsheets are going to be a little bit more like that. It's not going to be so much a graph of the data. It's going to be another way to organize the data. And so let's get right into it. Let's take a look at a spreadsheet. Now, you guys have seen spreadsheets before. Most people, most of you use for your office software, Microsoft Office. Okay, in Microsoft Office, the main program you use, of course, is Microsoft Word. That's what you use for writing all your papers. You even use it sometimes to put pictures in and so on. There's other programs that are part of Office Suite. You use Outlook is the main mail program that's built into that. PowerPoint is one of the original presentation software packages to do slides and presentations. Of course, there's a lot of new and I think a little bit better presentation tools than PowerPoint these days. But another program that is in that Office suite is called Microsoft Excel. And Microsoft Excel basically looks kind of like this. In fact, here's a screenshot of a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And as you can see, this is a way to organize data. Okay, if we take a quick look at this spreadsheet, we can see that it is tracking different kinds of expenses that somebody might have, their phone expense, their insurance that they have to pay, and their rent. So this could be a college student, or maybe somebody that's just graduated from college that's starting their new job. And you can see across the top, they're tracking it over 3 different months. Okay, so each column represents a different month, and the first 3 numbers in each column represent how much money is spent on those different categories. You notice that the phone fluctuates a little bit, but it's always about the same. The insurance is always a flat rate, and the rent is always a flat rate. And then at the bottom, you can see that they've totaled up the expenses. Now, that's not all the expenses these people had. It doesn't count things like food and going out to movies and clothes and other things. It's just tracking these 3. All right. Well, what are some advantages of using spreadsheets? Well, the biggest advantage with a spreadsheet is it organizes the data in such a way that we can quickly identify data. If something changes, we can just go back into the spreadsheet. We change the data. And the way spreadsheets are set up, we don't usually do things like totals or averages or even multiplications by hand. We set up formulas to do those. And the nice thing about a spreadsheet is if you change something, one of these data, let's say that all of a sudden I realized that I entered it wrong and that the March phone bill was actually $52.58. Well, all I would have to do is go into this cell right here, and that's what these are called. These little boxes are called cells, and we identify the cell by row and column. We usually use the column first, so this would be cell D, and it's the second row, so it's cell D2. So all I would do is go to cell D2, and I would change 4258. I just go to that cell, click on it, and I erase 4258 and put 5258 in. Now the beauty is, if I set up the spreadsheet the correct way, this total down here, I don't have to fix. It will automatically update by adding the extra $10. It'll automatically switch to $678.38. Which brings us to our other main concept that we need to learn today, and that is formulas. Now, these are not formulas like equations that we would normally see in math class, although they're very similar. These are formulas specific to spreadsheets. Okay, so right here, let's think about how they would get this total. Well, that's just the total of this column going down D, correct? So what we do, if I want to do a formula for that, I don't really have enough room here, so I'm going to go ahead and erase formula, rewrite a little bit smaller here. Okay, so the formula for that cell would be, let's see, the answer is going to go in D5. Okay, D5 is equal to, and what do I want to do? I want to add up D, I don't want to add up D1 because that's just a label. I want to add up D2, D3, and D4. So D5 is equal to D2 plus D3 plus D4. You notice that I'm not actually identifying the numbers that are there. I'm really identifying the places. So what this formula says is, look, to find the total for D5, add up the numbers that happen to be in D2, D3, and D4. And spreadsheets are smart too. If one of those cells is blank, it'll just ignore it. It'll treat it like 0. Okay, so there we go. So that's a spreadsheet formula and a spreadsheet cell. And like I said, spreadsheets are really handy because they organize our data quick and they do a lot of calculations for us. And they're also very vibrant in terms of if we change the data, the spreadsheet automatically will update things like totals and sums and averages and all that fun stuff. Okay, so that's the basics of spreadsheets. All right, let's take a look at another spreadsheet. Oh, and let me show you one more thing. There are a lot of built-in formulas, so different spreadsheets. Excel has slightly different formulas from other spreadsheets, and there's lots of spreadsheets on the market. And a lot of times, they'll actually have a colon equals, and what that means, we use equals in math class. Colon equals is used in computers a lot, where we're assigning a value. D5 didn't have a value yet, and so what we're doing is we're assigning it to whatever D2 plus D3 plus D4 is. So you'll see that sometimes as well. So let's take a look at another spreadsheet. This is from another country. I'm pretty sure that this symbol right here means lira, but it could just as easily be dollars or euros. It wouldn't really matter. And what I can see here is I'm grading employees. So entry-level employees look like they're probably grade 1. Okay, and then as people have been with the company longer and they've got more responsibilities and maybe they become managers or supervisors or maybe even vice presidents, obviously their monies that they make per week goes up. And so what this is this is a list. This wouldn't change unless everybody gets a raise. So this is a list of different employee grades and how much they make per week. Okay. Now, if I want to figure out if I'm in charge of the payroll and I want to figure out how much money I'm spending per week on payroll, well, it depends on how many people are employed at different grades, and so that's what's in column C. It tells me that this is the number of people, and so this time the formula for all of these D cells, what I'd have to do is I'd have to multiply whatever is in B, which is the weekly wage, how much a person makes per week, times how many people are at that wage. So the 1,400. And let's identify this. This would be cell D4, comes from multiplying B4 times C4. And that would be the formula for it. So D4 would equal B4 times, and in computers we use the asterisk for times, B4 times C4. Okay? And there's lots of handy little things built into these spreadsheets. For instance, if I'm doing a formula, a lot of times I can just click on cell B4 and it'll automatically write this in. I hit the times on my keyboard and then I click on cell C4 and it'll put that in. Okay. Now, let's say I hire 2 more people at grade 1. Well, this will automatically update by doing 140 times 12, and it'll add $280 more. It'll come up with $1,680. Okay. There is one of the main benefits of spreadsheets. And you can use spreadsheets for all kinds of things. You can use it for money. If you were the manager of a baseball team, you could use it to keep track of at-bats and hits. You could keep track of errors. Those of you that are really into sports, you're used to looking at spreadsheets all the time. Those box scores that they show after a basketball game that shows how many points different people got, how many fouls they committed, how many attempts, free throws they made, free throws they attempted. That's all one big spreadsheet. Okay, lots of things can be put into a spreadsheet. And spreadsheets can be pretty simple like this, or take a look at some of these spreadsheets. Here's a spreadsheet that looks like it's used for some currency trading. Okay, and you can see, again, this is really just that same concept we were just talking about, cells and formulas, but obviously this is tracking a lot more stuff. It's color-coded, it's got different sections, and actually if we were, looks like this, they're trying to sell this particular spreadsheet because they're talking about all the features up at the top. Okay, so here's another pretty complicated spreadsheet. This one's kind of neat. This one's a very economic one. It's tracking mileage. And for maybe you have a big company and you have a bunch of company cars, and they want to keep track of miles that are driven and for different purposes. And so sometimes you might be driving out doing charity work, sometimes you might be doing business work, sometimes it might be personal. Anyway, and you can see that from spreadsheets, most spreadsheet programs have built into them not only does it organize your data and help you do formulas and automatically update and all that, but most spreadsheets will also take your data and automatically turn it into graphs. All the graphs we've been talking about. So circle graphs especially, because you'll see, well, you saw in class yesterday that making circle graphs can be kind of tricky. Okay, measuring circle graphs and analyzing circle graphs not so bad, but making them can be kind of tricky. You can make bar graphs, you can make line graphs, and so spreadsheets can be really handy for this purpose. Well, that's pretty much it for spreadsheets. We'll practice with formulas and with identifying what's in different cells, and we'll go back to kind of a simple one. And you'll have questions like, what is in cell C2? And so the answer is $56.83. You might also say, what does cell C2 represent? So then you look, oh, well, that would be the phone expenses in February for this particular person. Okay? And so we're going to talk a little bit more about how to use spreadsheets. But that's 10 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and stop the video there. Thanks for watching, and we'll practice spreadsheets in class tomorrow. Bye now.